The Blight. A creeping black fungus that feeds on the will of its hosts. Pulsating with toxic blood too dangerous to touch, too dangerous to ignore. We must drain the ichor of this dark infection. Its mindless husks will protect its core. So I build weapons. Towers which conjure flames, chill the air, move the earth. Even so, I need your might. And to the mighty go the spoils. The source of this blight is out there. Its black tendrils reaching for us. We will seek it out and purge it. The Blight is here, and we are the cure.
In the Blight League, Sister Cassia is trying to stop the spread of the mind-controlling blight by destroying fungal growths. When attacked, the blight commands infected monsters to defend it. The monsters mindlessly follow the blight's tendrils, only attacking foes directly in their path. The infected are unusually tough, so you'll need to build defensive towers to exploit each monster's specific weaknesses. For each tendril lane you defend, a chest will appear with your rewards. These rewards can include oils, which Sister Cassia can combine together to enchant certain items. Blighted maps contain larger pockets of infection. Cleanse these for rewards, including unique items which can be enchanted with notable passive skills. In Path of Exile Blight, we also have a focus on giving you more control over when you run side content. Master missions now stack for later if you don't run them immediately. This expansion also contains significant revamps to the Saboteur, Assassin, and Necromancer Ascendancy classes, as well as an additional bar of skill bindings. Check out Path of Exile Blight on September 6th.
So yeah, that was me reacting to the Blight trailer, and now that I've slept on it, I have some notes for myself, so you guys don't have to watch the whole 3 hour whatever the fuck long that was of the whole, the first impression and all that random talk and shit. So I'm just gonna have trailer here in the background, and I'm just gonna go over it, So let's start with the league mechanic only, right? So we have tower defense, and as a system, like a game mechanic, it feels like it's gonna be a complete miss, or then it's gonna be like fine, like good. I don't know if it's gonna be like absolutely amazing, but it definitely has the possibility of being complete utter dog shit. We just don't really know yet, right? Personally, I'm a bit indifferent, right? I'm not a person who cares only about zoom, just kill mobs and get looted, that's all. But yeah, there's some decent amount of questions lingering how it's gonna work and all that, and at least for me. And that's like, is it gonna be like a fixed duration, or if it's gonna be a fixed amount of monsters which push towards the middle of the Blight, right? Because if it's a fixed duration, then there's gonna be a lot of people who don't like it because they have to wait and whatnot. If it's a fixed amount of monsters, will the speed of how we kill them alter how fast the next ones come? And there's definitely I think there's a fixed amount of mobs to some degree, because you get like the chests when you clear it, right? So I just hope that they don't keep spawning for a certain amount of duration, personally. How mandatory are the towers gonna be? Like, I guess this is more about like the player power versus the tower power. So are we just gonna roll stomp over all of the monsters, regardless if we use towers or not eventually? Or do we have to use a tower in order to have any good chance at, you know, doing the mechanic properly and like having, you know, being able to clear them well? Because at a certain point, if it's just roll some, and what's the point of the towers at that point? And if it's absolutely mandatory to use them to get any meaningful results, then it's, for a lot of people, I feel like it's gonna be an issue because you kind of have like your character a god, but then you have to, you know, obey these towers to be able to kill monsters or something like that. Personally, I hope that the towers are, at least in the higher tier content, somewhat mandatory. Not so that if you don't use them, it's impossible to kill anything, but that they meaningfully help you, even with like, well, not probably not like absolute mirror tier gear, but yeah, that's we'll see, I guess. Yeah. Then the rewards from the chests. In one of the videos, well, there actually, that was an unveiled item. So it looks like they're gonna go with the route of Legion loot, that we're gonna be getting old League content from them. So basically good shit. And since they are in chests again, that means that the MF, like item quantity, item variety, is not gonna matter for that. I wonder how it's gonna work with player quantity and rarity, because if it doesn't, then it kind of punishes you from playing in a group, right? So I wonder if they are trying to incentivize the group play. Then higher tier content versus low tier content. Everyone knows that even though higher tier content, like higher tier legions, did give you more stuff, but the risk versus reward was not really there, and it was easier and most of the more efficient just to do low tier content. So I hope they get that balance a bit better. I would prefer to not be incentivized to do low tier content to get most of the system, personally. But we'll see. Then I guess some skill mechanic wonders is, how will the knockback / frostball shenanigans work with it? Do they just like run through your frostball like they have phasing, or can you just like actually block them? Not that it's gonna matter for the most people, just some random thoughts. And like the knockback shit, like can you just have a crazy knockback and they will never be able to reach the end? So you always basically get to loot even if you don't have a great build. We'll see. And then the there were like damaging totems, and then there was like defensive totems. So I guess that's, if you have a, you know, the roll stone build, you would use the debuffing powers, and if you have like a tanky build that doesn't exactly have the greatest amount of damage clear speed, then you would use the damaging totems, and that could potentially nicely balance out the issue with the super clear speed build versus the tanky build. I don't know, we'll see. And you would just like face tank the mobs on the vines, or whatever the, you know, the sucky thing is between the like the where the mobs are coming and then the light. I don't know. I'm very, very, very indifferent of this at the moment. I don't hate it, but I don't see it being like absolutely amazing either. Hopefully I'm wrong, of course. And then when it comes to the upgrading the towers and all that, there's a lot of towers there. So how fast, like, how smooth is it gonna be? Because it has to be smooth. The more clicks you use per tower, the worse it becomes, right? It kind of looks like we are like just hovering over to the tower and then just pick one of the options. So it's basically like one click. But yeah, we're gonna find out sooner or later, right? And then what types of monsters are we gonna get out of those? Because if those monsters are gonna be crazy amount of rares, based on this video, it doesn't look like, but that's like low tier area. If it's a lot of rare monsters, it sounds like some good old headhunter face roll times. I personally hope that they just give you like pretty beefy blue mobs, because headhunter already is as like so insane, and it could potentially completely make it so that the high tier blighted maps are just like, you know, like absolute face roll with headhunter. I'd rather not have them have rare monsters, so that headhunter on those blighted maps wouldn't be as good, because that is kind of the end game of the league, the blighted maps. But yeah, we'll see. Then about like everything else, I guess we can actually go down here a bit now to check. So that we have the anointments, right? So it does not work on keystone, right? It's only the notables. So you won't be getting face aggro or anything like that from them. And they allocate the point as here, so allocates column spot. So this means that you can't have it twice. And I'm wondering how this will work with stuff that modifies the nodes, like Legion Jewels or Might of the Meek or Unnatural Instinct. And you know, Legion Jewels like can completely like remove the nodes. And my guess is that the anointed node, so let's say the Golem Splat here, if you have a Legion Jewel that completely replaces with a new one, then it simply doesn't give you anything. That would be my guess. Like it's basically like a dead wave at that point, like completely useless anoint. And in the case of Might of the Meek or anything that adds something to it so that the node itself will still be on your skill tree, then it just gives you whatever the node has. But like it's not like if you were to influence a specific node with a Legion Jewel, you're already very close to it. But there are some cases where you would want potentially take like a anointed node, or like allocate a node that is affected by the Legion Jewel, and you're like unable to actually go for the node because it's just too long way to go or something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of pretty insane notables, and we are getting 13 secret notables, which are all probably gonna be insanely crazy. But you know, here's some few, like Spiritual Aid for increasing the minion damage, like the minion damage applies to you, increases reductions. So that's very good way of getting some extra damage if you have, like, if you can't go for the node but you have minion damage otherwise. Whisper of Doom for Blast on Curse, obviously. Charge generation, there's overcharge for 8% for any of the charge on kill. There's Charging Offensive, which is the new channeling skill. Get, I think, end random friendly dodge on hit. Then there's Swagger, which is, I believe, was Frenzy and energy charge on block. Something like that. So there's a decent amount of good charge generation nodes. Yeah, obviously Flask node, Alchemist, Arcane Chemistry, Druidic Rite. We have elemental avoidance stacking stuff. So if you hit 100%, you know, avoid being frozen, for example, you are freeze immune. So Crystal Skin and Arcane Swiftness, and there's one in the Shadow tree, I don't remember the name as well. Those could be interesting. With obviously additional charges for charge builds, mitigation from Soul of Steel, or like Sanctum of Thought, which is also build enabling if you want to do a Soul Mantle build, because you can use 2 Gigasarus and then the Sanctum of Thought, and you're have 100% you know, reduce the effect of curse on you, there's just obviously there's life. So whatever big life notable you're missing, you could get. There's some Warcry stuff. You can get instant Warcries. There's some pretty good crit nodes, but remains to be seen what the new 13 secret nodes are. I absolutely love the fact that we can see what node we get before we actually anoint it. That's like that is so big. That is like so good for players because you don't have to go through like 15 million databases. I mean, you probably will because you want to find a specific notable, but you don't have to, you know, go each an individual combination of vials through there. But if you're searching for a specific one, well, then you kind of have to do it. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. Yeah, then other stuff. So when it comes to itemization, we're getting 18 new div cards. So we have the item level 100 Elder Bone Helm. That's just laughing at the item level 80 Elder Bone Helm that we got last league. I like this though now, because now you can get the +3 minions skill gem levels, which I'll talk about in a bit. We had one of them. So second div card we've seen is here is the Faded Unique, which is pretty interesting. We're getting 16 new skills / support gems, which basically is going to be the poison and crit gems for the assassin rework. There's minion gems, there's mine gems, and that's probably them. Just those 3 base types. We're getting 16 completely new uniques. That's a lot of uniques. There's 3 of them here. All of them pretty interesting, and this one works with the new like defensive mechanic that the assassin gets. There's like 24 rebalance, yeah, which 6 have been like substantial. So kind of like the last league when we got like Tomorrowhi and like that could rework. I'm wondering if it is gonna be specific to the league content, like last time, or if it's they're just like substantial overhauls, but you can find them out anywhere. Either way, this could potentially mean like 40 newish uniques, because even depending what they're doing for the other 18 ones, they could really change them. Probably not, but that's still like over 20 pretty much completely new unique, which is really nice. And a quick word on one of the new uniques that has and will most likely still cause a lot of confusion. I mean, it confused me for a decent amount as well, but after, you know, getting a good night's sleep, it was pretty clear on that. So yeah, these boots have your movement speed is 150% of its base value. So what does this mean? Is from the start, when you start the game, your character has 0% movement speed. At that speed, you travel like 39 units per second. You can Google like unit picture for POE if you want to. But this basically means that you will have a permanent 50% movement speed increase, and that only. So no other increased or decreased movement speed will work. And so more and less. So this means you cannot use Quicksilver, like anything that increases or, you know, gives you like more movement speed as a mod, like mod movement speed, won't work. So it's probably not gonna see too much use for those people who wanna go super speedy in that sense. However, action speed modifiers such as chill, freeze, temporal chains, gathering winds of tailwind, and then the summon harbinger skill from the belt that gives you action speed, they will still work because they are not modifying your movement speed, they are modifying your action speed, and moving happens to be an action. So those will still affect you. But like anything that directly increases gives you more or less movement speed won't work. So debuffs like hinder and maim, for example, have no effect either. And these boots are basically built for the travel skills. You have the increased cooldown recovery speed. So we're gonna see some really fast flame dash cooldowns, which is gonna be interesting. See if people are just like actually using flame dash as their only like mobility. I mean, you still have a bit from the boots, but yeah. Then we go for the quality of life stuff, which we can start off with the master mission things. This is like absolutely huge. This alone will make the league worth playing, even if the actual league mechanic will suck ass, in my opinion. And so we can stack them, right? So if you don't want to run them, just don't run them, and they stack up. And you see the how many missions you have at what like level or tier, right? You have the, if you look at here, we have a 102 yellow tier, 41 white tier, 800 missions. So we're going, and we can choose what map we run the mission on, which is big. But this means that you cannot use like a well-rolled Elder Underground C to run this mission. You can only use it for this. However, the Zana mods like the Shape +5 tiers or Elder into tier 16 will most likely be able to bypass that, I would guess. But that just means that that's another Chaos Sync that like you have to use Chaos Orbs to that. And you cannot roll the map yourself. So you risk getting like some really nasty map mods on your master mission. But the fact that we have this system could be interesting, because alt accounts, you level a character into maps, you run one high tier map, like you run like a T16 or 15, something like that, and that basically guarantees, I would assume, if it works anything like it works right now, that whenever you get the daily, you get 2 daily missions, even if you don't play, that those will be red tier ones, and then you just open them from, you know, like for your main account. So you could farm like red tier beast, you could farm high, like a, you know, red tier sulphite and stuff like that. Potentially there's the synthesis boss fights are now in Zana, like unique master mission maps or something like that. I would assume that the rarest one is on rare master mission, so you could potentially try to farm up those with the alt account system. So I'm wondering if GDT thinks this is a problem, and that they would just lock it so that it basically would only work with the account owner, or like that account. And so we wouldn't, for example, be able to share the sulphite, or other accounts wouldn't be able to capture the beasts, which I don't think is a good idea, because you might want to just, you know, you stack up a lot of these and then you go run them with your body. So I don't think that's going to happen. So I wonder what's going to happen with that. I can definitely see people actually do that though, because leveling a character to maps doesn't take long if you're fast and you know what you're doing. And then you just do a one high tier map, which then sets up your the daily spawn, like respawn, to high tiers. So maybe they had reworked that or something like that, but that's gonna be very interesting to see what's gonna happen with that. And then we have the Ascendancy and the archetype stuff. And first of all, Chris already said that Raider is gonna get changes. They just didn't include Raider on this because he's not getting like a new archetype thingy, and they use the archetypes to sell it for new players and all that. So we're getting 4 Ascendant, at least 4. Right? We're getting the Necro, we're getting the Assassin, we're getting the Saboteur, and then the Raider. Just like before, I'm not a massive fan of the archetype stuff myself, because they did, at least in the past, do the archetype stuff so that they would include skill-specific nodes in the Ascendancy trees, and I am not a big fan of that. However, in Legion, when they did the melee Ascendancy reworks, they didn't really have those. So I'm pretty hopeful that we won't have that either. Well, except we're most likely going to have that on Necromancer, but for example, the Assassin, that might not be the case. For the Saboteur, also might not. Obviously, it's going to be mind-specific ones, but hopefully like not a specific mind skill. You know, like the Herald of Agony on Pathfinder, for example, and stuff like that. And now a bit more like specific. So we have the minion buffs, which is big. So we're getting 3 new support gems that basically act like stances. I'm assuming they're gonna have like more multipliers, so you don't harm yourself in using those from another more multiplier. So we're getting like aggressive slash like defensive, and then a focus fire. And the focus fire sounds interesting for something like SRS, because right now they kind of like spread around, and sometimes even on single target, when there's only one target available to attack, they don't always go for it, and they just like linger around. So that might change something on that. Maybe, like, I have no idea how it's gonna work, but I'm hoping that it works so that when you target a monster and you cast SRS or whatever you do, they go for that. And if you don't, at least this in this case of SRS, I don't think they can really, they probably won't make it like super skill specific how the mechanics work, but that's how I'm hoping it to work. But we'll see how it's gonna be. I can see some issues with like, because SRS is like a temporary minion, right? So you target the like monster, and then you cast the SRS, it locks onto that and will stay that until it expires or dies. But that wouldn't work so well with something like Spectres or zombies, right? Because they're not temporary, right? They are there. So I wonder how that's gonna work. Minion skills being more relevant on gem levels. This really matters only for Spectre, as I can think of, because Spectres were based off the level of the area or the corpse, and now it's going to be more about the gem level. It's nice. At least I assume that means better endgame scaling with something like +3 minion helms, like the bone helmets we're getting the deep card. But I wonder, because right now Spectres already do absolute crazy damage, so I'm wondering if that means that they're going to be reducing how much damage they do early on, and then it's going to be harder for us to get to those levels that we are right now with slight, you know, buff at the very high end. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to work out. Then for the overall, I'm just very excited of the Necron and Minion reworks. For the Assassin Poison stuff, so we're getting a new defensive mechanic. It was the elusive, which was mentioned in one of the uniques here, that it works with. Whatever that is again. But it's a defensive mechanic. Probably something related to power charges or something, I would assume. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it's gonna work. But I'm a bit afraid that this is gonna be very skill specific nodes. I hope it's not, and I hope that this doesn't pigeonhole us to only, if you want to play poison, that we kind of have to go assassin, otherwise it won't be good enough. I hope that's not going to be the case, but remains to be seen. I'm hopeful, based on what the Legion Ascendancy works, that it's going to be fine. And then we have the Saboteur thing, which this is some major reworks how the mine system works. First of all, we're now throwing mines instead of laying them at our feet, because apparently it's being clunky. So ever since they changed the instant detonation to be instant detonation without you know, stutter stepping, I think mines have not been clunky, but apparently that's not the case based on the feedback. Either way, I fear that it's gonna feel exactly like a trapper Blade style wise, except EB doesn't sound like an option anymore because they will unlike mines that are not detonated, so the ones that are just waiting to be used, are gonna reserve mana now instead of use mana on use. So this means that it would bypass your ES and EB, and it also means that since it reserves your mana, you cannot go for very low mana, like unreserved mana pools now, because when you reserve the mana with the mines, that means that you can't use any other skills because now your mana pool is completely reserved or something like that. So I'm a bit worried about how it's gonna work out. Remains to be seen how it's gonna be. And then they also made it so that instead of mines triggering, like detonating at the same time, they happen now in sequence, and then they get like damage buff or something like that for the longer the sequence is. So I guess there is definitely distinction between a trapper and a miner setup, but the fact that both are thrown already is kind of weird to me. But just gonna see how it turns out. I'm very, I don't know, I'm very skeptic about this, but yeah. And I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about when it comes to the Blight reveal and all that. It's pretty packed. And yeah, I think even if the league mechanic itself will suck, I think league is gonna be amazing to play just because of the fact that we can back up and do the other side content, which there is so much already in this game, whenever we please, instead of feeling forced to do it immediately. But yeah, I'm excited for whatever other stuff we're about to see. I hope that they're gonna tease us with the secret notables soon. And yeah, more to come.